Oye, kamusta? Joe here, and it's time for another character case study, where I present a character of mine and what we can learn from my experience of building this character. So, let us talk about another favorite character of mine named Solara, and how I farmed her up from a simple initial concept. Solara in a general trope would be the one who lost everything. Her very character all boils down to the idea that she is the last of her race, and is reminded of which every day. So let's get to how I built Solara up. I would not lie about this, but Solara is actually based from the Pokemon Beautifly. In my first Gen 4 Nuzlocke run, I got my hands on a Beautifly on the Eterna Forest. Knowing that the Silcoon I just captured will evolve into one, I named her Solara, which basically means the sun. Now, I normally won't use Pokemons as base for an original character, but I really enjoyed using her in battle until she fainted. Then I also saw a video of the 7 Deadly Sins where there was another powerful butterfly-like character. I took 2 and 2 together and the rest is history. So I mixed the concept of a butterfly humanoid from the 7 Deadly Sins and used the Pokemon Solara as a base. And I ended up with a bleached hair, dark-skinned butterfly girl named Solara. Now, to expand on this character, first off, why is she a butterfly girl? She could have been an experiment, a ritual gone wrong, or it could be a mutation. I, however, decided that it's her race's appearance. And from there, I thought of a race known as the Abyss Rose. So the name of her race came from the color scheme I gave her. Her initial look was very reminiscent of my other races that lived in the abyss, so I assumed that the natural habitat of their race would be in the abyss. Then, for the rose part, I imagined that their wings looks like petals and their red skin kinda makes them look like roses in the abyss. Hence, Solara's race is named the Abyss Rose. So now, let us see how her race can affect her as a person. The first lead that I would have would be the fact that I included her to the group known as the Graphers, as part of the world building project I was working on that time. So just to explain real quick, the Graphers are a group of nihilists whose solution to end suffering is to end reality in its entirety. Basically, no one will suffer if there is no one to begin with. Take note here that I'm including her to a random group on a whim. There's no thought placed into this and it's totally random. My point here is that it's alright for you to go ham with ideas for your characters, as long as you can make it look like it was planned. Kinda like how a lot of good stories were just choosing a killer climax and improvising the other parts of the story to get there. So, to cover up this decision that Solaris part of the Graphers, one of the rite of passage among the Graphers is having a tragic past, a reason for them to become a nihilist. So, let's give her one a bit later. Now, going back to the Abyss Rose race, since they are quite new, if they do exist, they must have some territory on the Abyss. But I thought, what if they are already extinct? So that's two birds with one stone. It gives Solara a tragic past as a rite of passage, and now I don't have to worry about shoehorning another race to an established map. Though it's not that difficult now that I think about it. So, recap. We have Solara, a dark, red-skinned butterfly girl based on a Pokemon who is now the last of her race and now joins a group of extremists hell-bent on destroying reality. Now that is a solid character, especially a character from a simple base. Now if you want to make the character more layered, I want you to examine your characters, all the information you have built up on them, then ask, what do I want to know about this character? Treat your characters like an interesting protagonist in a novel or movie, a mysterious character that always makes us think and guess what interesting secrets they hold or how they became who they are. Do the same for your characters. Now for Solara, there are two major ideas that I can expand on. One is cementing her last of the race trope, and second, her reason for joining the Agralifers. I have a personal problem with the I am the last of my race trope. For me, it feels like it's usually used offhandedly, and it does not have a direct impact to the character. Need a tragic past? Then just stamp the I'm the last of my kind sticker to that character. And to further dishonor that trope, it would always turn out that they're not the last of their kind. I'm looking at you, Superman. I mean, the amount of copy pasted Superman is enough to give saber faces a run for their money. So, what if Solara is the last of her race? I mean that she is. Period. And we, the viewers, and Solara herself, has hard evidence. So I thought of how I can pull this off for a few days until I got to my solution. And again, it would have something to do with the nature of her race. I think some of you would have guessed it by now, but the Abyss Rose, as a race, would have a collective consciousness known as the network. That means all Abyss Rose knows where every other Abyss Rose is, wherever they are in the known reality. A race with a collective consciousness, like a built-in internet in their brains, is surely a fearsome race, which now I think about it can be the reason to their demise. But imagine how Solaris feeling. She taps into the network just as much as we use our sight, but for her, the network would be just a silent world, a cruel reminder that her race has been forgotten by the modern world. She is literally stranded in the world of her race. Okay, that's cool. Now, let's nail it down to the ground even further. I imagine this scene as a what if. So, what if Solara managed to ask the closest to a god figure that there is, if she is really the last of her race? So she would be asking this character named Amethyst, the library goddess, the goddess who facilitates all of the events and is pretty much the closest we have to an omnipotent being. So, after asking the question, the goddess confirmed that she is the last of her race. But then, when Solara asked why the goddess allowed it to happen, the goddess simply answered that it was the natural course of reality. Then she made a simple analogy of how humans do not even save an ant colony from being eaten by an anteater, and also brush it off as a natural cause of nature. Solara, however, did not like the idea that her race was seen as worthless as ants, and swore to bring down this goddess from her throne. And now we have another solid reason for her to become an extremist. It all ties together. Well, currently, that's all I have built around her. One last thing I do want to share about her is that in her info sheet, she is currently the only character who has the tower as her tarot symbol. I use tarot symbols as a quick way to generalize characters, kinda like horoscopes or the 16 personality, but the tarots focus more on the core of the character. Solara having the tower just means that she is a character I deem to fall. She will become so fixated to the idea that she has to avenge her race that she will become a slave to that mentality until it destroys her and she will sink to her lowest point. At that lowest moment, whether she will change for the better or die by her sword is something interesting to discover. But I will only know that answer once I have completed her whole story and all the human connections she has made. For now, the story of Solara ends here. There's of course ideas to give her more depth, like is that really enough of a reason for her to wish the death of reality? And also, why her? Why did the people who kill her kind leave her as the sole survivor? But that can all wait in the next project. To summarize all the steps that I have done, one is to start with your base, which can be anything under the sun as long as it interests you, then start asking. 2. Set some truths so that you have some starting points. Follow what interests you and don't be afraid to go wild with your ideas. Third, now start covering up and connecting these truths, making them look authentic and planned. If the truth you establish are like nails on the wall, start connecting them with string. The more connections, the better. If there are truths you cannot connect, you can also remove them. 4 would be to watch out for other accidental truths that you can nail along the way. This would make the character more original and would distance themselves from the initial trope that you have made for them. Last 5, follow what makes you curious about the character and try to figure out their secrets like a stalker. See what revelations stick out with the established truths, then keep repeating if you still feel like they lack depth. I also wanted to point out how I was not quick in establishing her personality. In fact, I did not even give it any attention. Boxing up characters before you even nurture them limits their growth. For Solara, I only used a simple base, then let her adapt, thrive, and find her place in my story, naturally. If you want to learn more about this character, I wrote a short story around her in Wattpad called Sordid. Most of her character development was formed there while I wrote the story. And you can also check out her simple character sheet in my old IG account. There I explain more about her powers and the unique magic system of the Abyss Rose. Lastly, I do want to be clear that I do have a lot of original characters, but for every one Solara, I have 10 that barely pass off as a character. Remember, characters will always be a work in progress, so take it slow and enjoy the process. Anyway, this is Joe Bayani, hoping you get your characters created. See you next Friday. Love you all. Bye bye.